Hello everyone, welcome back to all of you in the Smelly Army. So today we're going to be having a look at my top 10 designer fragrances for men released in the past 10 years, the decade coming to an end, the 2010s. Before we do that, a lot of you have been asking, when is the series The Spray Team going to be premiering on YouTube? And of course, it's very imminent now that the first episode is going to be out. We've finished shooting the pilot episode, and I also want to point out my fellow reviewers who are in the series performed all their own stunts. So here's a quick trailer to whet your appetite a bit more for The Spray Team.
In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they did not commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune by reviewing fragrances on YouTube. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire The Spray Team. The Spray Team, coming to YouTube soon.
Hello, welcome back everyone. So today my top 10 fragrances for men, designer fragrances released between 2010 and the end of this year, 2019. The decade is coming to an end. So I've picked out 10 great fragrances for men, all in the designer realm. They're not necessarily the most successful fragrances, the biggest selling ones. They're just my personal favourites from the decade. Some of them are very well known, talked about ones, some of them quite obscure, my personal taste. Let me know in the comments below your favourites, whether it's one, your top 5 or your top 10 from this decade. It's a fun conversation. I've seen a couple of other reviewers have done this video. I will pick a winner. I'm not going to do them in chronological order. I'm not going to do them in a countdown 1 to 10, 10 to 1, but I will pick my one favourite at the end and decide which that one is. First one I'm going to mention then in this video is SAUVAGE PARFUM from DIOR, a 2012 release from the Parfum Francois Demarchi, a masterpiece in my opinion. Only 3 listed fragrance notes in this one: bergamot, myrrh and vetiver. It is of course a flanker of the original Eau Sauvage from 1966 from Dior, but I'm including some flankers in this list. I decided that was the way to go. There are so many great flanker fragrances these days. I thought, yes, we'll include flankers. And this one doesn't smell massively similar to the original anyway. It does have a similarity in its very nice green bergamot opening, a certain citrus element, certainly common to both. However, this one is a resinous and woody and masculine fragrance with a really classy edge. I reach for it in the same mood as things like my favourite Creed Bois de Portugal. Great performance, very grown up smelling but not dated. There was a reissue which came out in 2017 where they changed the formula. I prefer this sadly discontinued and now quite hard to find version, but the 2017 one is still really good. They took out the myrrh note. It's a little bit more fresh and less dark and enigmatic, but it's still very good. But this one, an absolute 10 out of 10 fragrance. Eau Sauvage Parfum, the 2012 version.
Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week, plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there.
Next up then, I'm going with a 2015 release, and this is DUNHILL Icon. So a real comeback by the house of Dunhill, which had released some fairly average stuff up until then for a few years, most people felt. Carlos Ben Ayim's 2015 creation, Icon, with this fantastic bottle there, really, really nice metallic bottle, really heavy. More importantly, the smell. It's definitely a freshie. It's got lovely neroli and bergamot in the opening notes. There's quite a bit of lavender in here. There's vetiver. There's a healthy dose of ISO-E Super. It's kind of all-around pleasing, masculine, woody, well, it doesn't even have to be a masculine note, but a sort of woody, fresh, clean note. There's black pepper in here. Supposedly there's a touch of oud. I don't pick up on that massively, but it's extremely nice, fresh, citrusy, woody combination with some lavender, some spiciness as well. An excellent, excellent fragrance. A bit similar to Terre d'Hermès with an added citrus bite and zest to it and a pepperiness. Excellent, excellent fragrance. Icon from Dunhill. A few flankers of that one, but I still prefer the original 2015 release. So that is worthy of place in my list, no doubt. Next up then, we're going to go for a really talked about fragrance over the years. And this is Bentley for Men Intense from 2013. Natalie Lawson, the perfumer for this one. A stunningly rich masculine fragrance. It's got a very pronounced rum note, sort of rum stroke whiskey feel you get on this one. So it sort of goes with the rather nice bottle design there. Bentley, of course, a car company, but I think we can call this a designer fragrance in terms of the price level. You can get it for great prices online. If you look around, don't buy it necessarily in a department store. Go online, Notino, places like that. Lots of patchouli in this one. There's clary sage. I think there's, I think it's bay rum. No, a rum note is definitely in there. It's very rich. It's very masculine. It's quite leathery as well. In some ways, it has a passing reminiscence to me of things like Givenchy Gentleman from the 70s, but it's got more of a niche feel, more sweetness, and this boozy thing. Really, really in your face smelling. You've got to be confident to wear this one. It's got quite a bit of vanillic sweetness as well. So leathery, sweet, boozy, lots of patchouli if you know what that note smells like. Very masculine and a stunning masterpiece fragrance that you can pick up for incredible prices. Very few other people likely to be wearing that one because the average man in the street doesn't really know about that. Okay, so moving on to my next choice, I'm going to surprise and perhaps annoy a few people because I'm going to include Valentino UOMO, the original Eau de Toilette version, and I think this was a 2014 release from Olivier Polge, a man who composed the fragrance DIOR Homme, which this is said to be very similar to, and indeed it is. It shares the waxy iris lipstick type note of Dior's famous Homme, which was released back in 2005, so it doesn't qualify for this list. It also adds a twist of hazelnut and chocolate in there, which is very, very pleasant and very cleverly done, and it's a beautiful overall composition. There's myrtle in there as well, so it's a slightly sweeter gourmand sort of take on the original DIOR Homme Eau de Toilette, but it's got a magic of its own and it's got a beautiful bottle too, and it really is a cracking fragrance. And why shouldn't Olivier Polge, who'd moved on from Dior, why shouldn't he take that theme and tweak it? And I think he did a good enough job that it's worthy to be really thought about as a fragrance in its own right. So let me know what you think about that. Not everyone may agree with me on that one. Now, my next choice in the list is from 2017, and again, it could be controversial because it's Gucci Guilty Absolute from perfumer Alberto Marias. This one is often described as smelling like a doctor's waiting room, a hospital, TCP, antiseptic, disinfectant. I kind of get that. It's a challenging fragrance. It's a very woody, masculine fragrance. There's notes including cypress, there's leather, patchouli and vetiver. It's a very woody and very masculine smelling, very grown-up fragrance. It has very little sweetness. It has very little of the sort of juvenile, high street friendly department store, instantly pleasing notes that so many masculine fragrances have nowadays. But it's got a real depth and complexity, and it's a really, really classy and daring fragrance. I wonder if it will be discontinued soon. Snap it up while you can if you can find it for a good price. It's a cracking fragrance, and definitely, it's going to be a love it or loathe it for a lot of people. But I'm going to say that I'm in the love camp. Next up we have a Tom Ford, the only Tom Ford in the list, and this is from what can be regarded as the designer fragrance end of his line of stuff, because the private blends we would think of as niche fragrances, and this is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme, and this was released in 2015. Notes include nutmeg, rose, sandalwood, amber, vanilla, and a coffee dessert accord, which is a slightly milky Indian kind of dessert, and it's a very wonderful, spicy, oriental, woody scent. Quite sweet, a little bit powdery. It has this almost, yeah, kind of milky, almost hints of cardamom, which doesn't, I'm not sure that's a listed note. Creamy kind of thing about it, but it's also got a dark woodiness as well, and they've skillfully combined those two facets for a sort of wonderfully grown-up dessert-like smell. Also has, it sort of faintly reminds me a little bit of the metrosexuality of DIOR Homme or DIOR Homme Intense, but it's very different as well, but there's a passing similarity. So Noir Extreme from Tom Ford, really, really great juice, and you don't have to go for the expensive private blends to get a great Tom Ford with a great bottle in your collection. So a real favourite for me from this decade. Here's another one now that you probably or may not have heard of. This was a 2010 release. It's Paul ZILERI's VIAGGIO d'Africa. Now, this is a very, very interesting fragrance indeed. It's often actually compared to Hermès' Vetiver Tonka and also to Bal d'Afrique by Byredo. I am not massively familiar with these, but I love this fragrance in and of itself. There's a pronounced Tonka note, there's Vetiver, there's Gaiac wood, and although they're not listed as notes or accords, many people talk about a slight burnt sugar or maple syrup and even a coffee-esque smell in this one. It's semi-gourmandish, but it's a very grown-up and sophisticated gourmand fragrance. So if you think of a warming Tonka note, a little bit of masculine woody vetiver, and then this sort of subtle creamy sweetness as well, that's what you get here. Perfect fragrance for an autumn day, a walk in a leafy wood or something, or going to meet a friend for a coffee in a square in Milan or something. Paul ZILERI's Viaggio d'Africa. Fantastic stuff. Sadly discontinued and hard to find, but I was lucky enough to pick up a bottle on eBay. Has a rather fetching box as well that it comes in. See if you can get your hands on that one for a good price, guys. A really good fragrance. So I think we've got 3 left. I hope I've counted right. Next, this is something a bit more fun and playful, maybe. Well, actually, is it? I don't know. I think the bottle. I always think the bottles are a bit tacky, weird, or are they really good? I don't know. Mugler Pure Havane, Amen Pure Havane, a flanker to Amen from Mugler, and a really, really good one. It is my favourite. Very often compared to Naxos by Xerjoff, but there's a similarity, but they're different. This has a ton of tobacco, as you would expect. It's very much a honeyed, sweet tobacco accord. There's a hint of a chocolate or cocoa kind of note in there. We've got patchouli. There's vanilla as well. It was Jacques Huclier, the perfumer, who created this and released it 2011. Fantastic, rich tobacco, patchouli, very heavy, has a hint of that kind of tarry thing that you get with the original Amen, but it's sweet tobacco is what you get with this. Slightly synthetic smelling, performs really well, a really good fragrance. Performance on all of these actually that I've mentioned so far, I'll just throw a blanket over them and say they're good performers, except for Valentino UOMO, which is actually quite disappointing in performance, so -1 point for that one. For that, the rest I would call good performers. So we've got 2 left now. This one, it had to be in the list, didn't it? It's again the only house with 2 in the list as Dior, and I've chosen Dior Homme Parfum from 2014. Again, Francois de Marchy. It's got that wonderful rich iris note that we associate with all the Dior Homme fragrances. There's sandalwood. It's a darker woody take on the original Dior Homme, and still darker than the Dior Homme Intense, which is also really good. There's a little bit of ambrette in here, rose, and a leatheriness about it. So it takes the original waxy, marvellous smell of Dior Homme, thickens it up, makes it a little bit more dark, a little bit more masculine with the leather, a little bit more woody. Very, very rich, very powerful in performance, and a superb, 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10 fragrance. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Dior Homme Parfum. I think it might have been discontinued. I'm not sure. Let me know if you know. Last but not least, I've gone for a Guerlain fragrance, but I doubt you'll guess which one. It was way back in 2010 that perfumer Thierry Vasser, who had just taken the reins, I think, as perfumer at Guerlain, gave us Cologne de Parfumeur. Now, as you know, if you follow the channel regularly, both of you, I really love citrus cologne style fragrances. I love Guerlain's Eau de Guerlain from 1974. I love Eau de Cologne Imperial, which I think dates back to the 19th century. So many of their different twists on this theme that come in these lovely bottles here are really good. And I guess as a rite of passage, Thierry Vasser created his own take on a citrus Eau de Cologne. If you want a really great alternative to Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino for a fraction of the price, this could be it. It's a very light, fresh, beautiful, kind of mandarin orange feel, orange blossom, some maybe white floral notes in there, and a little bit of masculine woody depth as well. Woody depth, I think it's a fairly unisex, but leaning slightly more masculine. Really, really beautiful take on the classic eau de cologne style, kind of soapy, fresh, a little bit fun and playful as well, and just lovely stuff to spritz all over yourself daytime, spring and summer. Maybe not the most remarkable or unique composition ever, but a perfectly executed traditional eau de cologne from a modern perfumer, Terry Vassar. So wonderful stuff. So those were my 10. I think I counted right. My favourite, if I had to choose, probably Dior Eau Sauvage, the 2012 version, my favourite release of the decade. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching, guys. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.